Hi folks, welcome to the Baton Halla. Hi everybody in the stream. We've got a talk from Melbourne, Australia that's joining us remotely, and so I'd like to get straight into it and welcome three members of Ghost Pattern. So we have Goldie Bartlett, Jason Bakker and Susan Dang joining us today to talk about their project. Hi!
We are Susan-less.
Susan-less.
Yes, just the two of us today. Me and Goldie. But hi everybody, great to be here.
Okay, and I'll let you get into it. You're ready to go, so I'll let you get into it. The Q&A we'll have at the end as well, and I'm ready to go. So later, if you've got some questions, hold on to them, and we'll have some time for that. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Hello, Berlin. I would like to just start by acknowledging that we're coming to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I'd like to acknowledge their elders, past, present, and emerging, and say that they are the traditional owners of these lands. And also just point out that Wayward Strand is set on the lands of the Bunurong people, and I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Sovereignty was never ceded in this country, and we've got a really important referendum coming up at the end of the year, which will give Indigenous Australians this thing called a voice to Parliament, which is really cool. So if you're Australian and you're listening, please think about voting yes and get educated. So without further ado, my name's Goldie Bartlett. I was the art director on Wayward Strand. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of you in the audience will know what it's like being in a small indie team. So I was also doing a ton of stuff, businessy bits, marketing-y bits, and the whole process of making a game like Wayward Strand was quite collaborative. So that's me and my role. And this is
this is well, I am Jason Bakker, and on Wayward Strand I did writing and programming and like some design and production and a few different things. But as Goldie was saying, like everything on Wayward was just a super collaborative, really nice overall process. So if you haven't played Wayward Strand, it's a very heartfelt, interactive story, or really like set of stories set in an airborne hospital. And you play as Casey, a teenage girl, and you're exploring the hospital and getting to know the patients and staff on board. And it's got an interesting structure in that there's the little clock, a little clock in the corner, and all of the characters have their own schedules and timelines and their own interactions with each other. So as you play, everybody else is also wandering around the ship and having their own stories that are going on. And so because you can only be in one place at one time, you're seeing whatever you're seeing, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on simultaneously that you're not necessarily seeing on that playthrough. And that's today we'll be chatting about frustration in Wayward Strand and why we think it is such an awesome part of our game. And we were thinking to start with, we're going to try to show a few videos. We'll see whether this works or not. Is it possible to swap our thingy over to the video layer or something? I'll
get the right video queued up.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm going to pick it.
All right, it's ready to go.
So this is just a capture of a particular portion of a stream that a player was doing of Wayward Strand quite recently, and it's always very funny to watch how players deal with frustration with Wayward Strand. Sometimes they don't get frustrated at all, but often they do. And what they pine for is really interesting, I was saying earlier. Anyway.
Yeah, totally. All right, I'm going to hit play. Fingers crossed that this plays and everything okay. But let me know if it doesn't.
To this other conversation.
Would you still like dinner later, Mr. P?
Yes, thank you.
Oh my gosh, I arrived too late.
It's fine.
I arrived.
Oh, hi.
Casey,
Not my mother. I was gonna go talk to Ted.
Here you are. Come on, let's sit for a bit.
Let's sit for a bit. There's so much to do. So much story to find out. Mother,
Well,
let's talk in
I
the
suppose
house.
you heard about the counsellor.
Yeah.
That's so good. I love that. Like, let's talk in the house at the end.
Yeah. You're wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So earlier,
yeah.
like I was saying, like earlier today, I wrote a list of what I thought were some of the like bits of the game which frustrated players, and what's demonstrated in this video is like number one, which is what Jace was saying, where you cannot see everything in Wayward Strand during a single playthrough. It's not possible. You cannot see everything in Wayward Strand during 2 playthroughs or even 3. I think you would need to play it at least 12 times to even have the chance to maybe see every character's like main storyline play out. So that can kind of lead to a sense of FOMO in a lot of players. But luckily, as she says here in this video, like what she wants more of. She's not frustrated to a point of like wanting to put the game down. It's more like, oh no, I want to be accessing more of it. But she's only being distracted by conversations.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that's something that happens a lot as players play Wayward Strand, is that they're like trying to do something and they might be kind of frustrated in their effort of doing that thing, but then it's like the distraction will almost always be like, oh, there's actually something else exciting going on to explore over here, or some other thing that I've been pulled into. Yeah, and so I think it's a bit more of like a gentle frustration, and there's an interesting kind of dynamic between the two types of frustration, or the sources of it. Like one of them is this very kind of dynamic, generative frustration that comes out of the dynamic stories and the fact that all of these characters are moving around, and as happened there, you might just get to a room right when a conversation is ending. But then we also have tons of very intentional, kind of scripted, frustrating moments in there, where the goal there is, it's all about, I guess, presenting the player a world where they can feel things that they don't often feel in games. You don't often in a game get to feel frustrated in a way that's like very intentional.
Like I understand why I'm frustrated.
I think, and to do with a lack of agency.
Yeah, and like as we said in the talk description as well, it's really a good device in a way for writing these characters. So Wayward Strand is really like propped up, or the crux of Wayward Strand is really the NPCs rather than the player character. So Casey is so like her agency is really critiqued by us as game devs, and allowing space for characters to just be frustrating and to shut you out, or to not want to talk, for example. That really helped us to explore what it might actually be like to be a 14-year-old in a hospital, like at mum's work, for a few days. The other thing that I will say that it was important for us to like avoid that FOMO and make sure that the one single playthrough did still feel really satisfying as its own standalone story. Jace, what are some of the ways that we helped that feeling be there for players?
Yeah, like I think the main way is kind of the thing that was happening in the latter part of this clip, where there are certain elements within the game, what we internally call the bookends at the start and end of each day, and then a couple of other special moments that will always happen within a particular playthrough between Casey and her mum Ruth, who's the nurse that we saw in the video before. And so throughout a playthrough, they have an arc of their relationship and their story with each other. And so that kind of means that regardless of what you've seen or what you've missed or what you've like only caught the end of or haven't fully understood on your first playthrough or on any playthrough, there is still like a core arc of that comes to a satisfying resolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Touching back on what I said earlier about how some of our players kind of shut you out, we have a video maybe of Margot or Esther to demonstrate?
Yeah, we'll jump to, we've got some videos that we're going to show of like various moments in the game, and then we'll just chat about them. I might go to, we'll go to Margot, Dr. Bouchard, and your first, like, when you meet Dr. Bouchard in the game. Yeah, so I'll play this video.
What?
Dr. Bouchard?
What are you here for? Time to turn me sunny side up?
I don't work here.
Then what are you doing in my room?
They told me to check in on you.
You must have heard wrong.
No, I'm meant to be here.
Then I return to my original question. As to your particular business in my room.
I'm just meant to come to visit and keep people company.
Well, I have no desire for company. Good day. You're not leaving. Fine. Sit for a moment if you must.
Yeah. So that's an example of one of our more like characters that isn't really keen to have you around, Dr. Bouchard, and really has a lot going on in her own life that she is not very keen to share with you, basically. And I think it's something really interesting for a player like to be, because at the start of the game, you're basically given this goal: go around the ship and chat to the patients and get to know them and spend time with them, keep them company, and then to come to a room where somebody is like, no, get out. And this video shows an interesting mechanic where you're only given the option to leave the room, and you actually, the only way to stay in the room is to let that option time out, so that eventually Dr. Bouchard says, "Oh, fine, okay, you can stay." I think, oh, that's my cat. I think it's like with Dr. Bouchard in particular, like some of our characters are very nice and friendly and welcoming, like Ida or Neil or even Esther will really like chat your ear off. But with Dr. Bouchard, we were really excited to have a character in this game that had her own storyline going on, and you can be discovering elements of that storyline and chatting to other characters about what's going on in Dr. Bouchard's life. Like she's somebody who used to be the town doctor and is a very well-regarded figure, but is in late stages of a very serious illness and is experiencing a lot of frustration herself in being a person that had a lot of agency and power within the world, and then kind of now being confined to a hospital bed and in the last few weeks of her life. I think it's like just a very rare experience in a game to come across, like so often in a game it feels like the characters that you're coming across and getting to know feel like they're there for your benefit, or if
exactly.
if not, they're like, they're very in service of you, or even if they're enemies, they're like waiting around for you to go and attack them or whatever. Like that's their entire existence. So in Wayward Strand, Dr. Bouchard in particular is like the most extreme example of a character where we tried to have them feel like they really have their own existence in life that's very separate from Casey, and you can try to help Dr. Bouchard in various ways, but
a lot of players do try.
So.
I've found that a lot of players are like, I'm going to crack her. I'm going to be the one who gets her to open up and be warm. And when we were designing her and designing her storyline and balancing, the characters out, we just had to kind of, there are a few days, and this game did take 6 years, so a few days is a very small percentage, where we were like, are we sure that she, she's closed off? And it was like, yeah, if it's frustrating for the player, I think that will help the game have its special flavor of experience. So it's like we kind of took no mercies with things like this. But in a way, that also kind of felt just like giving the weight of her experience some respect, if that makes sense. Like she is responding fairly, I think, to a really hard circumstance. And it would be kind of like, I don't know, a bit schlocky to just say, well, no, you can break her, you can game her into changing how she feels. Like, no, you can't. And that feels like a better character to work with. It was more fun to work with, or more interesting to work with, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Like it feels in some games that characters can feel like they get reduced down to puzzles in a way of like, oh, well, even if there's this character that really doesn't like you, you just have to do this with them, give them this gift, or do this, complete this quest, and then that will get them on your side, or that will like resolve their storyline. And so for Dr. Bouchard in particular, her storyline goes to a bunch of interesting places, but they don't involve you, and you can try to get involved and you'll be rebuffed. And that's that I think is expressive of like that character's storyline and what we're trying to express.
What else do we got?
I'll go to another one of our videos. We've got a few. I was thinking to go to another one which just I guess expresses a different way that we frustrate the player, and this is more with just like awkwardness. So I'll jump to this one in Esther's room. So in this video, you've gone to the room of Esther, who's sitting in their bed and looking at some kind of book for some reason. Right.
Beat it.
What? Did you want me to leave?
Huh? No, it's the clue. Beat it. 5 letters.
Oh.
Scram. There we go.
Yeah, so this is just like a little funny moment where even if you're in the room when Esther starts their crossword, you still don't necessarily like, you can ask them, what are you doing? And they'll just be like, shush, be quiet, I'm focusing. So it's only the player has to figure it out over time as Esther is saying these clues and then figuring out the answers for themselves, or asking you and you don't know. Or Casey doesn't know.
And there's another example with Esther in the same sort of scene where Esther says, this person's got a memory like a, what was it? And then the 3 options pop up for you to choose, or memory like a sieve, memory like a goldfish, or memory like an elephant. And while all 3 of those would be a totally fine answer, Esther only responds positively to one of the three at random. They either say, no, that's not it, or you get it right. And it's just again like a more of this character building through challenging the player a little bit.
Yeah, totally. And a thing that because we've chatted to quite a few players about the experience that they've had with it, and then also like watched a bunch of streams and everything as well. And one of the things that we hear often is that when somebody was playing Wayward Strand, it really got them to like put them into a reflective state in a way that they don't often get into when playing games, which is super exciting to think about. And I think a lot of that is also comes out of the mechanic that's where you can just hang out in a room with somebody and they may eventually say something or they may not. And even that is like a lightly potentially frustrating thing where you're hanging out in somebody's room and hoping for them to speak and they don't speak because they just don't have anything to say at that time. But if you visit them later on in the day, then something might have happened where now they've got something to talk about with you.
It's also like if you've spent, the game goes over 3 days of time, and if you've spent a lot of time with a particular character on day 1 or day 2, then there's a lot more chance for those silences to fill with noise because the character's opened up to you. They'll prompt you for conversation. But if you just approach them on day 3 having never really spoken to them, then they'll sit in an awkward silence because they don't have that connection to you. So little designy moments like that to lean into it.
Yeah. It just like it really I think gives the player a sense that especially for players that aren't game developers, because if you're a game developer you might be thinking like, oh, I can kind of see how this is working. There are timers and variables behind the scenes that are like making a player say making a character say something or not say something at a particular time. But I think for somebody who like plays games or doesn't even play that many games, it will feel kind of a little bit magical that these characters are so themselves and active within their own lives and not waiting around for the player character to come over to them to trigger the next part of the story, but that each of their stories is just moving forward by themselves.
For sure. Who else have we got? We're doing really well.
Yeah, well, we'll show one more clip and then maybe we'll try to get into some questions.
Just a reminder, we do have questions open and we'd love to chat.
Hopefully answer a couple of the ones near the end. Maybe let's go to
should we get some questions ready for you folks?
Actually, that'd be awesome. Yeah, thanks.
Anyone got some questions about frustration in Wayward Strand?
Yeah, frustration in games.
I'm going to go down to the back because there's someone else with a mic for the front here. Please say your name.
Hello. I got a question. I was a bit reminded of some phenomenon on escape rooms that I've heard about. That on some escape rooms, operators are actually kind of avoid making the clues too obscure because they have realized that when people are encountering this, they are starting literally to disassemble the room and basically unscrew all kinds of stuff which is not supposed to be unscrewed and something like this because they are just thinking there are more extremely obscure clues. And so I was wondering if you have had a similar issue possibly with, for example, players expecting that they have to wait on the menu and then waiting forever or something like this.
Oh, like a pop out the disc, change the disc sort of moment. I I think with Wayward Strand, Jace, you might not agree, but like because there's this ensemble cast who all have their own stuff going on at all times, if you find yourself butting your head against a particular storyline, there's 11 or 12 other storylines happening at exactly the same time. And very often a character will literally walk past a player and they'll go, never mind with this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to find out. I'm going to like check in with Neil, who I was talking to earlier, and see how his storyline's going. So I think unlike in an escape room where it's like, okay, you solve this clue and then you move to the next clue and then you unlock this puzzle and go to the next puzzle and then you beat it or you don't. It's sort of like doing 12 escape rooms at once.
Yeah. I think that's a good example of a bit of a light frustration, because some players, I've noticed when they start, they're like, well, I'm going to play this like a normal, I'd normally completionist style play a game where I'm going to spend all of my playthrough with this one character, but then eventually they'll be like, oh, this doesn't really seem to be working, and there's all this other stuff going on, and I just get pulled into something else or distracted by something else. I think we just have the benefit that the clock is always going in the bottom corner, and that means that, you know, eventually you're going to come to the end of your time with somebody. You might just be, I'm going to stay here and find out the thing, and I'll stay as long as I can. And then that person just gets up and goes off because now it's like 11:23, and that's when they go to the cafeteria to have lunch. And then it's like, well, okay, what do I do now? You've got to go find something else to do. But there's so much that, as Goldie said, that can be found.
And I think I think we like cracked into the joy of how hidden some of the secrets are when we designed our achievements. So we were forced, anybody who's released on console, like you have to have achievements. And for a game that was so kind of anti like solving or anti puzzles, that was kind of an interesting thing. But if you want to achievement hunt in Wayward Strand, it's like you need to talk to this person at the right time and then that person. So if you want to come back in and try to escape room the game, it's there for you.
It is still possible. Yeah. And there's a lot of exciting stuff. It goes against the philosophy.
Nice.
Yeah, there is exciting stuff that's seeded in there, because if you do play it like that 12 times or whatever, that's the only way that you would actually make certain connections within the game that we're built in, of like, this character, the fact that they say this on day 1 and then say this other thing to this other person on day 3 has this particular significance, that because you know about all of the rest of the things in the game, that's what like kind of makes that really significant. Yeah.
Should we throw to another question?
Yeah.
There's one at the front.
Thanks.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to say that the game is incredible, and I had a lot of fun playing it. Like playing a lot of games, it was one of the very few games where I don't feel like I see the Matrix after an hour. Like it was a game where I was constantly surprised in how it reacted to me and how it didn't react to me, and it was an incredible experience.
That's awesome.
Incredibly written and voice acted. So huge congratulations on that. One thing regarding frustration where I did feel a bit frustrated. I was interested in how you got to that decision. Was the save system, where for context the game only saves after every in-game day, which can take quite a while. And playing in handheld on the Nintendo Switch, it led to like frustrating situations once or twice. And I was wondering how you got to the decision to implement it like that. Is it like just to make sure that the player doesn't save scum? Was it like weighing usability against the gameplay concept?
As somebody who earlier confessed to being involved in the business part of this game, I think I can mention that it was pure logistics. We didn't have time or money, and we still don't. So Jason, as a programmer, might speak to it.
There's a few factors that went into it. I think there is a design element there, which is probably why it became lower on the priority list than other things, where we felt like, well, somebody spending the time with the game and kind of being forced to do it in that way might might be an advantage in some cases, or might make it feel a little bit more like a little bit more magical, or a little bit less understandable in a way that we like. But I think if we had all of the resources that we wanted, we probably would have had like saving within the day at launch. The other part of it that has been a challenge, because we're working on trying to get that in there, is just because it's got all of these like real-time 3D characters and interactions and animations and characters interacting with props and everything, all of that, kind of saving that out and spinning it all back up and getting our custom ink thing going again is it's all doable, but it's just a challenge that we're still working through. But like we do want to eventually get an update out that removes that frustration, and that's mainly because, you know, we want people to be able to play this who don't have an hour or 40 minutes or whatever it takes to get through a day to be able to focus on it. Yeah, it'd be really great for somebody to be able to pick it up and put it down like they might a book or something else.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
I really would hate to interrupt the Q&A session, but unfortunately we're at time. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was really interesting to see the playthroughs as well and watch players see their frustration on their faces. I think that's also adds this extra layer of like, yes, you hear the frustration, you see the frustration, you can see at the same time. It's really nice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
It was really
No
great.
worries,
everybody.
I'll invite anybody to ask questions on Twitter.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
All right, so that was Wayward Strand, and the game is on a bunch of different platforms. If you haven't played it yet, do.